Do you think that 14-year-olds should be considered adults? Because that's what Donald Trump and the Republicans have done today and are working towards making federal and state law in the coming months. Earlier today, Trump and his goons held a press conference where they talked about the rampant teenage crime levels and the fact that there are apparently roving bands of teenagers out there wreaking havoc on the entire nation. So now Trump and state-level Republicans are proposing legislation that would make 14-year-old people and older held accountable as adult offenders, but it does not quite stop there. They are also proposing that anyone 14 years old and older is considered an adult for purposes of marriage and for purposes of how they would treat sex crimes. Wyoming, West Virginia, Missouri, and New Hampshire all recently rewrote laws that allow children to get married, claiming that child marriage prevents abortion. And the real kicker is, if you can get married at 14 years old, any sort of age difference between you and your spouse that would have been considered a sex crime is no longer considered a sex crime. The Utah Republican State Senate President J. Stewart Adams just used his power because his 18-year-old relative was accused of raping a 13-year-old, so he changed the law in Utah to say that if an 18-year-old rapes a minor, as long as that 18-year-old is still enrolled in high school, they're treated as a child offender and not as an adult offender, which made that crime of his 18-year-old relative raping a 13-year-old a misdemeanor, like a slap on the wrist, as opposed to a felony. Make no mistake, this narrative that the Trump administration is spinning that there are rampant bands of teenage criminals terrorizing the nation is nothing more than cover for the fact that they're trying to make the age of consent for marriage 14 years old. The whole thing is wrapped in trying to make 14-year-olds 18-year-olds. Also in today's press conference, yes, Donald Trump did invoke something called Section 740 of the D.C. Home Rule Act, which allows him to take control of the D.C. Metro Police, and he has done that. So what they're doing now is deploying federal officers as well as the National Guard. He also claimed he'll send to the military if he needs to sweep Washington, D.C., removing homeless people and other criminals. He was really vague about that. They will use the National Parks Police to clear any of the green areas that are in Washington, D.C. that you may have seen homeless encampments in the past. When asked, where are you going to send these people to? He said, well, nobody knows where these people came from. A lot of these homeless people, nobody knows where they came from, so they could be deported. Trump directed these police officers to go really hard on folks, saying, you have to knock the hell out of them because that's the only way they learn. They can do whatever they want. They can hit people, especially if they spit at them. So we'll keep following the federalization of Washington, D.C. and what's going on there. But do not let this story about them trying to make 14-year-olds adults so they can marry them or incarcerate them slip by you.